Music is not a luxury. It is not something human beings merely invented to decorate life. Music is one of the deepest tools we have for learning, remembering, feeling, connecting, and even healing. Nietzsche once said that without music, life would be a mistake. Music reaches places that ordinary language cannot always reach. It can lift us, it can move us, it can stay with us for decades. It can carry emotion, memory, language, and meaning all at once. And today, we understand more and more that music does not only move the heart, it also changes the brain. When we listen to music, or sing it, or learn through it, the brain becomes highly active. Music engages the auditory cortex, the motor system, memory circuits, emotional centers, and attentional networks. In other words, music is not passive. Music is one of the most neurologically rich experiences available to us. This matters because memory is not just repetition. Memory depends on attention, emotion, structure, and retrieval. The brain remembers better when information is patterned, meaningful, repeated with variation, and emotionally charged. Music naturally does all of that. That is one reason why people can forget conversations, forget paragraphs, forget lists, and yet remember songs from 20 or 30 years ago almost word for word. Music anchors memory. It gives information a shape the brain wants to keep. This is not new. Human beings have known this for a very long time, even before neuroscience had names for the hippocampus, neuroplasticity, dopamine, or auditory processing. Cultures across history passed on stories, prayers, values, and language through song. Sacred chant, folk songs, nursery rhymes, epic poetry, and oral traditions all understood the same principle. When truth is carried by music, it is easier to remember, easier to share, and often easier to love. Part of our vision is to use music as a vehicle for learning and memory, not only because music is beautiful, but because it is effective. We help people learn through music. We help them remember through music. We help them engage language, prayer, and meaning through music. It includes music that helps adults recover a sense of joy in learning. And it includes spiritual music that can accompany people in times of suffering, especially those who struggle with hearing loss, tinnitus, and related burdens. Because music combines multiple layers of learning at once, when language is placed into melody, people do not only memorize words, they begin to feel the accent of a language. They feel its natural rise and fall. They feel the phrasing. They feel the emotional color of the words. Melody teaches more than vocabulary. Melody teaches movement, contour, emphasis, and memory. A language has music inside it. And when those languages are paired with melody, they become more alive, more memorable, and more human. This is why children learn so much through songs. This is why people can learn things through music that would feel dry or difficult in another format. Music reduces friction. Music creates energy. Music gives the brain a reason to come back. And when the brain comes back willingly, learning deepens. There is also a biological reason for this. Music is closely tied to reward and emotion. When people enjoy what they are hearing, dopamine and related systems help reinforce attention and learning. Put simply, when learning is joyful, the brain becomes more receptive. This does not mean all learning must be entertainment, but it does mean that delight, beauty, and emotional meaning are not superficial. They are part of how human beings learn best. That matters greatly in a world where so much education becomes mechanical, exhausting, and disconnected from wonder. Music can restore wonder. It can restore dignity to the learning process. It can remind us that the human person is not a machine. We are not built only to process data. We are built to respond to meaning, beauty, order, hope, and resonance. And this is where music also touches the spiritual dimension of life. For thousands of years, human beings have used music in prayer, ritual, contemplation, and sacred memory. Plato and Aristotle both understood that music shaped the soul. St. Augustine wrote about the deep movement of the heart through sacred song. Bach believed music existed for the glory of God and the refreshment of the soul. Across generations, music has been one of the chief ways human beings have expressed reverence, gratitude, lament, and hope. Prayer placed into music becomes more memorable. Music placed into prayer becomes more penetrating. And chant especially shows us something important. Repetition does not always empty meaning. Sometimes repetition engraves meaning more deeply into the person. That matters to us, because part of our work includes music connected to prayer, healing, contemplation, and spiritual encouragement. There is much to compose and produce music that unite education, meaning, and beauty. And there is something powerful in that union. Music can carry faith, courage, language, and memory. And for people who are suffering, music can sometimes carry hope where plain explanation cannot. We also cannot speak about music and adversity without remembering great figures such as Beethoven. For a musician, hearing loss is one of the most devastating things imaginable. And yet Beethoven, even in the midst of losing his hearing, continued to compose works of astonishing greatness. His life remains a testimony that music is not merely heard externally. It is also structured inwardly, imagined inwardly, known inwardly. In another way, Joaquin Rodrigo, though blind, composed music of extraordinary brilliance and emotional color. These examples remind us that art can persist through suffering, and that the human mind can continue to create beauty even under severe limitation. That should humble us and inspire us, because it means music belongs not only to the strong, but also to the wounded, not only to the trained, but also to the searching, not only to the professional, but to the entire human race. And now, we are living in a time when technology is opening new doors as well. Modern tools, including artificial intelligence, digital composition environments, recording systems, and educational platforms, are expanding what can be created and shared. When used wisely, these tools can help us develop music more efficiently, distribute it more broadly, personalize learning, and create resources that support memory, language acquisition, prayer, and encouragement. Music has always evolved alongside technology. Before the modern piano, there were earlier keyboard instruments such as the clavichord and harpsichord. Before CDs, there were cassettes. Before cassettes, other formats carried sound from one generation to the next. Technology should not be worshipped, but neither should it be feared without reason. Throughout history, tools have changed the way music is composed, performed, recorded, and transmitted. What matters most is the intention behind them. And intention is everything. Music is never neutral in its effect. It shapes attention, emotion, and atmosphere. So the question is not only whether music is powerful. The question is, what are we doing with that power? We want music to be something that serves human flourishing. That is why we are creating music not just for passive listening, but for active transformation. Music for learning, for prayer, for memory, for encouragement, and especially for people who want more than noise. And yes, music should be fun. It should be beautiful. It should awaken joy. But joy itself is not trivial. Joy helps people learn. Joy helps people return. Joy helps people open themselves to what is good. The reason is that music reaches deeply into the human person, and in a distracted world, that is no small thing. If this vision resonates with you, there are many ways to participate. You may be someone who wants to support this mission. You may be someone who wants to collaborate creatively. You may be someone interested in producing, developing, or sharing meaningful music. You may be a parent, a donor, an educator, a musician, or simply a thoughtful person who understands that music should do more than fill silence. Or perhaps you are someone who suffers from hearing loss, tinnitus, or related struggles, and you are looking for encouragement, resources, or connection. Wherever you are coming from, this work is meant to serve, because music matters. It matters to healing, and it matters to the future. Without music, life would indeed lose something essential. But with music used intentionally, we may recover far more than entertainment. We may recover a way of learning more deeply, a way of remembering more faithfully, a way of healing more humanly, and a way of living with greater meaning. Because without music, the world would be a mistake.